The first thing I noticed about her was her silence. In a world full of voices fighting to be heard, hers didn't need to. It commanded attention without raising a single octave. The day I walked into that glass-walled office for the interview, I was trembling. A cheap blouse, a secondhand folder clutched in my hands, rain dripping from my hair. And she was there, sitting behind a desk that looked like it belonged in a museum, her fingers resting on a glass of still water, her eyes fixed on me, as if she was trying to read everything I wasn't saying. Her name was Evelyn Hart, CEO of Hart & Co., a luxury brand that existed somewhere between art and commerce. I'd read about her, seeing her photo in Forbes once, but no photograph had captured the weight of her presence. "You're late," she said, not unkindly, just factual. The train." She raised a hand and smiled faintly. "You're here now. Sit." Her tone made it sound like an invitation, but her eyes made it feel like a test. I sat, the leather chair cold against my skin. The room smelled faintly of sandalwood and rain. She skimmed through my resume, not really reading, just tracing each line with a slow, deliberate finger. "You've never worked in corporate before?" "No, mostly small jobs. Freelance writing, social media, and a cafe, part-time." Something about my honesty made her pause. Then, with a tilt of her head, she said, "Good. I don't want someone polished. I want someone observant." That was how it began. The first few weeks were a blur of late nights, perfectly brewed coffee, and a constant undercurrent of tension I couldn't name. Evelyn was demanding, but never cruel. She had a precision to her, every word, every gesture calculated, like she was orchestrating a symphony only she could hear. And yet, sometimes, I'd catch her staring out the window, her face unreadable, the city lights painting her in a loneliness I couldn't unsee. One night, we were both the last to leave. The office was dark, except for the blue glow of her computer screen. I'd just finished organizing a presentation file when she spoke, her voice soft, almost distant. "Do you ever wonder what it costs to have everything?" I looked at her, unsure if it was rhetorical. "I think it depends on what you lose in return." She turned to me then, and for the first time I saw something fragile behind her composure. "Smart answer," she murmured, almost to herself. That night, she offered me a ride home. Her driver was off, she said. The car smelled like leather and her perfume, a warm, sharp scent I would come to know too well. Rain streaked the windows as the city blurred by. Neither of us spoke for most of the drive. When she finally dropped me off, she looked at me for a moment longer than necessary. "I thank you, Miss Hart." She smiled. "Evelyn." Just my name in her voice, I swear, it left an ache in my chest I didn't understand. After that, the boundaries began to blur. She started asking me to stay later. We had dinner at her desk, sushi boxes, wine poured into paper cups. She told me about her childhood, about how her father built the company from nothing, how she inherited both his empire and his loneliness. "I think people only see me as what I can offer them," she said once. "And what do you want them to see?" "Something real." Her eyes held mine when she said it, and for a moment, the air between us went still. That night, when I got home, I couldn't sleep. I replayed her voice, her laugh, the way her hand brushed mine when she handed me her glass. I was falling, and I think she knew it. The next week, during a gala event, she appeared in a silk gown that shimmered like the night itself. She didn't look like my boss. She looked like a secret no one was supposed to touch. But she looked at me across the room, like I was the only one who could. Afterwards, when most of the guests had gone, I found her alone on the terrace, a glass of champagne untouched beside her. "You shouldn't look at me like that," she said without turning. "Like what?" "Like you want to save me." I wasn't. Yes, you were. There was no anger in her voice, only a quiet kind of sorrow. I stepped closer, the air cool and heavy between us. "And I don't want to save you, I don't want you to be alone." Her breath caught. I heard it, soft as a confession. And then she looked at me, really looked, and I knew something had shifted. "Go home, Olivia," she whispered, but neither of us moved. The first raindrop hit the edge of her glass, then another. The sky broke open, and suddenly we were standing there, soaked, breathing too close, and in that fragile moment, between restraint and surrender, she reached out, her hand trembling against my cheek. "This can't mean anything," she said. "It already does." And then she kissed me. The rain swallowed everything, the city, the noise, the reason. All that existed was the taste of her, the weight of her hands, the sound of my heartbeat crashing against the storm. It was desperate, forbidden, inevitable. When it ended, she stepped back, her mascara smudged, her breath uneven. "She told you one night. That's all I can give you." But even as she said it, I saw the truth in her eyes, that it wasn't enough. Not for either of us. I didn't know it yet, but that kiss would ruin us both. The next morning, the world looked exactly the same, but I didn't. The city moved as it always did. Horns, coffee cups, the steady hum of routine. But I carried something invisible on my skin, a secret I couldn't wash away. I could still feel her lips, the ghost of her breath against my neck, the warmth of her hands that had trembled when she let herself feel. When I walked into the office, Evelyn was already there, immaculate as always, sharp white blouse, hair pinned back, every detail in place, except her eyes. They looked exhausted. "Good morning," I said, my voice barely audible. "Close the door," she replied. I obeyed, my heartbeat too loud. She didn't look up. Her fingers traced the edge of a document, the motion too deliberate. "About last night," she said, finally. I wanted to say I was sorry, or that I wasn't, but she kept talking, her tone crisp, as if the rain and her kiss had been a dream. "It can't happen again. It shouldn't have happened at all." Something cracked inside me, quiet but deep. "Right," I said, "of course." But as I turned to leave, she added, softly, "You make it very hard to stay in control." For the rest of the day, she didn't speak to me unless she had to. Our eyes met only once, when she handed me a folder and our fingers brushed. It was nothing. It was everything. Days passed like that, tense, silent, magnetic. Every glance carried the weight of what we weren't saying. Every smile that wasn't there was another wound. I told myself I could handle it, that it was just a mistake, that she didn't mean it. But late at night, when I saw her name light up my phone screen with nothing but a single period, I knew she did. One night, I found her in the office again. Everyone else had gone. She was staring at the city through the glass, her blazer draped over the chair, sleeves rolled up, a half-empty glass of wine beside her laptop. "You should go home," she said, without turning. "So should you." She sighed. "You think I want to stay here?" "You always stay." That made her look at me. "And you always come back." There was no accusation in her voice, only truth. I walked closer. She didn't stop me. I could feel the pull again, that dangerous, beautiful current that always brought us to the edge. "You said it was just one night, but you're still here." She looked at me then, and I saw her facade crumble for just a moment. "Do you have any idea what this could destroy?"
Yes, I said, but maybe it's worth it. Her eyes softened, and I saw something flicker. Longing? Fear? Maybe both. Then she reached out and cupped my face, her thumb brushing my lower lip as if memorizing it. "You shouldn't want me," she murmured. "Then don't." She hesitated. "You don't make that easy." The distance between us disappeared. Her lips were on mine again, this time slower, heavier, like she was trying to forget herself inside the moment. The air was thick with everything unspoken: guilt, desire, need. When she finally broke the kiss, she leaned her forehead against mine. "You don't understand," she whispered. "I've spent years building walls around everything that hurts. And you just walked in." I wanted to tell her I'd stay, no matter what. But she stepped back before I could speak, already rebuilding her mask. "Go home, Olivia," she said again. "Please." The word please broke me more than the distance ever could. I went home, but I didn't sleep. I watched the city lights through my window, wondering if she was watching the same ones, wondering if she was thinking about me or pretending not to. Over the next few weeks, she tried to keep things professional again. We spoke in clipped tones, exchanged files, scheduled meetings, but sometimes her voice would falter mid-sentence, or her gaze would linger too long. One Friday, she called me into her office. "We're flying to Milan," she said, flipping through her planner. "New partnership meeting. You'll handle logistics." I nodded. "When?" "Tomorrow." The trip was a blur of airports, hotels, and polite handshakes. But it was the nights that lingered. Long dinners under golden light, laughter that came easier with wine, the way her hand brushed mine when she reached for the bread basket. On the last night, after the meeting ended, we stood on the balcony of the hotel suite. The city below glittered like a heartbeat. She was quiet, staring down at the lights. I used to think love was a weakness, that it makes you lose control, makes you reckless. And now? Now I think maybe I was just afraid. Her voice cracked at the edge of the word afraid. I stepped closer, my hand finding hers. She didn't pull away. "You don't have to be," I whispered. She looked at me then, really looked, and I saw every wall fall away. For once, she wasn't the CEO. She was just Evelyn, a woman who'd forgotten what it meant to be touched with care. When she kissed me again, it wasn't fire this time. It was a slow ache, a surrender, the kind that re-rates you from the inside out. We ended up in her hotel room, the city lights flickering through the sheer curtains. Everything about that night was quiet. Hands tracing stories on skin, words whispered against shoulders, promises neither of us dared to keep. Afterwards, she lay beside me, her back turned, silent. I reached out to touch her, but she spoke before I could speak. "This can't follow us home." It wasn't cruel. It was heartbreak disguised as logic. "Why?" I asked softly. "Because I don't know how to love without destroying what I touch." I pressed my face against her shoulder, breathing her in. "Maybe this time you won't." She didn't answer. When morning came, she was gone. The other side of the bed was cold. On the nightstand sat a folded note: "You deserve someone who can stay." For a long time, I stared at it, the ink blurring through my tears. She had walked away, and yet every part of me still belonged to her. I returned to the office weeks later. She'd taken a leave of absence, and the whispers around the building said she was traveling. Paris, New York, no one knew for sure. Her office door stayed locked. I tried to move on, tried to bury her name under routine and noise. But every night, when I looked at the skyline, I remembered the way she had looked at me beneath the Milan lights, like love was the most dangerous thing she'd ever dared to touch. And maybe, for her, it was.
3 years passed. 3 years of pretending that what happened between us was a brief mistake, instead of the moment that split my life into before and after. I'd left the company 6 months after she did. The building had become a maze of memories, her laugh echoing in the glass walls, her perfume lingering in the elevator, her shadow in every corner. I couldn't breathe there anymore. I took a quieter job, smaller office, smaller paycheck, but peace. Or something that looked like it. But some nights, I'd still wake up to the sound of her voice. I'd dream of Milan, the balcony, the stars, her eyes soft with something she wouldn't name. And I'd wonder if she ever thought of me. Then, one gray afternoon in November, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Still drinking your coffee black? My hands froze. I hadn't seen that sentence in years, but I didn't need to check the name. Only one person in the world knew what that meant. Before I could stop myself, I typed back. Depends. You buying? Her reply came seconds later. Always. She wanted to meet, just to talk. Against all reason, I said yes. The cafe she chose was quiet, tucked away on a corner street where rain clung to the windows and the smell of espresso softened the air. When I walked in, I saw her immediately. Evelyn hadn't changed much. Still graceful, still magnetic, still impossibly composed. But her hair was looser, a few silver strands showing near her temples. Her smile when she saw me was small, but real. Olivia. Evelyn. The sound of our names felt like coming home and reopening a wound at the same time. She gestured to the seat across from her. You look good. You too. Though the words felt too small for what I meant. We sat in silence for a while. The world outside blurred in the rain. I didn't think you'd come, she said finally. I almost didn't. Her laugh was soft, familiar. You always did have a hard time saying no to me. I looked at her, then really looked, and saw something behind her calm expression. Regret. Maybe even longing. So why now, after all this time? She took a slow sip of her coffee before answering. Because I've spent 3 years convincing myself that I did the right thing, and lately I'm not so sure anymore. My chest tightened. You left without saying goodbye. I know. You could have called. You could have... I couldn't, she interrupted, her voice breaking. You don't understand, Olivia. I was falling apart. I thought leaving was the only way to protect you. From what? From me. Her words hit harder than I expected. I laughed softly, but it wasn't humor. You don't get to decide that. I know, she said again, quietly. And I've regretted it every day since. Silence again. The rain outside turned heavier. People came and went, but the two of us were suspended in something slower, something old and unfinished. "Are you happy?" she asked suddenly. "I'm surviving." She nodded, then whispered, "Me too." And then she reached across the table, hesitant, as if testing fate, and her fingers brushed mine. The touch was electric and familiar, the years between us collapsing into nothing. "I tried to forget you," she said, "but I couldn't. Every deal, every city, every face, you were always there, somewhere in the back of my mind." My throat felt tight. "You told me I deserved someone who could stay." "I was wrong," she whispered. "You deserve the truth, and I was too much of a coward to give it to you." "What truth?" That one night was never just one night for me. I froze. Her eyes were wet now, shining with something raw. I told myself it was control, curiosity, loneliness, but it wasn't. It was love. It always was. Time stopped. All the things I'd rehearsed saying, all the anger, the what ifs, the questions, they all vanished. "I still love you," she said softly, "but I know it's too late." I wanted to tell her it wasn't, that the years hadn't erased anything, that she still lived in every heartbeat I tried to quiet. But I saw her left hand then, the glint of a wedding band. My chest went cold. She noticed my gaze and looked down, almost ashamed. "It's not what you think," she said quietly. "It's complicated." I smiled, but it hurt. "It always is with you." I thought marriage would fix me, make me stop chasing things that break rules. But nothing ever fills the space you left. For a long time, neither of us spoke. The air between us felt heavy, sacred. Finally, she whispered, "Do you hate me?" I shook my head. "No, I could never hate you. I just wish you'd stayed." She closed her eyes, a single tear sliding down her cheek. "So do I." The cafe door opened, a gust of wind, the smell of rain. I knew it was the moment. The goodbye that had waited 3 years to happen. She stood first, slipping her coat on slowly, her movements careful, deliberate, like she was memorizing every second. When she leaned down to kiss my cheek, her lips lingered there just a little too long. "Take care of yourself, Olivia." "You too." She walked to the door, paused once to look back. Our eyes met one last time. 2 lifetimes worth of love and regret trapped in a single glance. Then she was gone. I sat there until the rain stopped. When I finally stepped outside, the city lights were flickering against puddles and the air smelled of something new. Maybe love doesn't always last. Maybe sometimes it just changes shape. It becomes memory, ache, a soft shadow that follows you without hurting anymore. That night, I went home and poured a glass of wine. Her number was still at my phone. My thumb hovered over it, but I didn't text. Some stories don't need more chapters. They just need to be felt. And as I looked out the window, the city shimmering below me, I whispered to no one, "I loved you too, Evelyn. I always did."